Carsey here. In this question, we've shown the graph y equals 3 cos x plus 45 degrees. That's what's shown in this diagram. And we're asked to find the coordinates of this minimum turning point A. So first off, let's look at an interactive diagram showing this type of graph and see what happens when we vary the value at the front and vary this adding 45, vary these values, and we'll get a feel for what these numbers do to a cosine graph. So here's an interactive diagram. So here we have a cosine, typical cosine curve, y equals cos x. Notice I've started off here with a being 1, so it's 1 times cosine of x plus, and b is 0. So this is a cosine graph. Starts off at 1, goes down to 0 for 90 degrees, value of -1 when the angle is 180, cosine 180 is -1, back up to 0 for 270, and up to 1, cosine of 360 is back up at 1 again, and it repeats. That's one complete cycle. So let's have a look at the effect of this number at the front. If we start increasing that, you'll notice that the amplitude, the height of the graph increases. We're now reaching an amplitude of 3. There's an amplitude of 3. That's with a 3 at the front. And the graph now goes from a maximum of 3 down through 0 at 90 degrees to -3, back up to 0 and up to 3 again. And there's an amplitude of 4 and up to an amplitude of 5. So let's take that back down to the original amplitude of 1. That's a normal cosine graph. And what effect does adding a number to the angle x have? So you watch this graph, you'll notice that the cosine graph is moving to the left as I increase that number. And it moves back to the right, back to where it started. So increasing the value of b moves the graph to the left. So in particular values, I've moved the cosine graph 15 degrees to the left, 30 degrees to the left, 45 degrees to the left, and so on. So that's the effect of adding a number to the angle. It moves the cosine graph to the left. So let's now go back to the question. So in the actual question, we have a 3 at the front, which would imply that the y-coordinate of this point A, the least value, is -3. So it only remains to find out what the x-coordinate of this graph is. Now we know that normally the cosine graph starts out, well, if it was 3 times cos x, it'd start out at 3 and would go down to a minimum at 180 degrees. But we notice we've added 45, so this red graph that I've attempted to draw in will have moved it 45 degrees to the left. So the minimum point, that's A, would now appear at 180 minus 45, which is 135 degrees. So the x-coordinate of this minimum is 135. So these are the coordinates of that minimum turning point, 135, because the cosine graph has moved 45 degrees to the left, because we're adding 45 to the x angle, and -3 because the amplitude of the graph is now 3, so its minimum value is -3. That's Mr. Carsey signing out. Hope you enjoyed the video.